Welcome back everyone, and get ready because today we are diving into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of rare coins, where a simple Lincoln wheat penny from 1951, something most people might overlook in their change jar, has been valued in the collector's market at an unbelievable $274 million, making it not just a small cent but a giant treasure in disguise. And you might be wondering, how on earth could a coin with a face value of just 1 cent end up being worth more than the net worth of entire companies and famous athletes combined? And that's exactly what we are going to explore together in this incredible journey as we break down the errors, the mistakes, the unusual strikes, the historical context, and the collector demand that turned this little piece of copper into one of the most expensive coins ever recorded. And did you know that the 1951 wheat penny was produced in massive numbers at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, yet among the billions of regular strikes a handful slipped through with jaw-dropping errors that today have collectors willing to pay fortunes beyond imagination? And the story begins with the composition itself, because while most 1951 wheat pennies were struck in a 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc alloy, some experimental planches from leftover wartime metals were accidentally fed into the presses, resulting in 1951 pennies struck on steel planches or bronze mixers with odd toning. And these unusual compositions are the first trigger for the astronomical values, since collectors place unimaginable demand on unique metallic anomalies. And then we dive into double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's portrait and the date show doubling so extreme you can see a ghost-like second image of his eye, his beard, and the numbers in 1951 practically jumping out under magnification. And these doubled dies are extremely scarce, and when combined with full red luster they drive auction bidders into a frenzy. And there are also off-center strikes, some showing Lincoln's head only partially on the coin with the rest blank. Dramatic off-center wheat reverse errors that reveal how the coin blank shifted during minting, and these are prized for their visual shock value, because it is obvious even to the untrained eye that something went horribly wrong at the mint. And then come the clip planchette errors, where small crescent-shaped bites are missing from the rim, giving these coins a unique fingerprint-like quality, and each one is literally a one-of-a-kind. And when you add mint mark errors to the mix, such as repunched mint marks where the D for Denver or S for San Francisco was punched multiple times slightly off each strike, creating shadows that fascinated collectors, the rarity multiplies and the price skyrockets. And let's not forget broad strikes, where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking malfunctions, causing the design to expand outward, making the penny much wider and flatter than normal. And these visually dramatic mistakes are highly valued. And then there's the famous transitional errors, where coins intended for 1 year's design are struck on planches meant for another year, creating a hybrid rarity that experts treasure like works of art. And the 1951 wheat penny is no exception, as examples have been found struck on leftover 1950 planches, or even on foreign coin blanks meant for overseas contracts of the US Mint, which makes them not just rare but truly extraordinary pieces of minting history. And did you know that beyond errors, the condition of the coin itself is critical, because a 1951 wheat penny in circulated condition might fetch a few dollars, but in pristine mint state condition with full red luster untouched by time, the price grows exponentially. And when certified by top grading agencies like PCGS or NGC with grades MS67 or higher, the desirability leaps to the point where collectors will pay millions. And when a one-of-a-kind error is combined with such top condition, the market loses all restraint and records get shattered. And that's why this particular 1951 wheat penny with multiple rare error features has been appraised at $274 million, because it combines everything collectors dream of: rarity, condition, error uniqueness, historical intrigue, and a perfect storm of market demand. And when you think about it, the wheat penny series itself is iconic, minted from 1909 to 1958, and beloved by generations of collectors because it was the last to feature the wheat stalks reverse before the switch to the Lincoln Memorial design, and that gives it nostalgia, artistry, and historical resonance that fuels demand even more. And every serious coin collector begins with wheat pennies, which means demand is built into the market forever. And when a once-in-a-lifetime error like this surfaces, it becomes a holy grail coin, and auction houses know it will trigger bidding wars unlike anything else. And speaking of auctions, some 1951 pennies with unique errors have already sold for tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars, proving the appetite is real. But the $274 million valuation comes from a specimen so unique and irreplaceable that private collectors and institutions are competing to own it like fine art. And when you compare it to paintings, jewels, or rare manuscripts, it makes sense, because rarity plus cultural significance equals astronomical value. And did you realize that coins like this are not just money, they are pieces of American history frozen in copper, struck by machines operated by humans who sometimes made mistakes, and those mistakes today translate into unimaginable treasures. And it's these human errors combined with industrial technology that create the rarest numismatic wonders. And when you hold such a coin, you're literally holding a piece of history worth more than luxury yachts, private islands, and skyscrapers. And collectors see it as an investment that will only increase in value because the supply is fixed forever, and the demand keeps growing as more people enter the hobby through YouTube videos, coin shows, and viral stories just like this one. And that's why people are fascinated, because anyone could find such a coin in an old collection, a forgotten box, or even pocket change, though extremely rare. And that possibility keeps the dream alive and fuels the frenzy, because did you ever imagine a penny from 1951 could change someone's life forever with generational wealth? And now you know the details of how a humble cent became a $274 million masterpiece in numismatic history. So if you enjoyed this story and you want more incredible discoveries about rare and valuable coins, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next unbelievable coin story that could be hiding right in your pocket change. Next, 1958 D wheat penny. Today we are going to uncover one of the most mind-blowing stories in the entire world of coin collecting and numismatics, a story that proves how something so small and ordinary looking as a Lincoln wheat penny can become one of the most extraordinary treasures in history. And the star of today's journey is none other than the 1958 D wheat penny, which has shocked collectors, investors, and historians alike because of its unique mistakes and errors, and has been appraised at a jaw-dropping $154 million, making it not just one of the rarest wheat pennies but one of the most valuable coins ever recorded. And you may be wondering, how could a coin with a face value of only 1 cent that most people might toss into a jar or ignore completely become worth more than the biggest mansions, the most exotic sports cars, or even high-tech companies? And the answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, error types, minting anomalies, and collector demand that turned this little coin into a giant of the numismatic world. And this incredible journey starts in Denver in 1958, the final year of the wheat reverse design that had been in use since 1909, and the very last time the beloved wheat stalks appeared before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. Which means every 1958 penny already carries the sentimental and historical weight of being the closing chapter of a great American coinage era. But when you focus on the 1958 D minted in Denver, the story gets even more fascinating, because while billions were struck and entered circulation like any other penny, among those billions a handful were produced with spectacular errors that make them virtually priceless today. And did you know that one of the most legendary errors associated with the 1958 D wheat penny is the double die verse, where Lincoln's portrait, the motto "I in God we trust," the word liberty, and the date 1958 show dramatic doubling so crisp and strong that even the naked eye can spot it? And unlike faint machine doubling that is common and not valuable, this kind of bold doubling is extremely scarce and immediately sends collectors into a frenzy, because only a handful are known. And when one combines this with pristine mint state red surfaces, it becomes a treasure like no other. And then you add the fact that some 1958 D pennies were struck off center, some as little as 5% off and others up to 80% off, where Lincoln's portrait is cut off and part of the coin is just a blank crescent of copper. And these visually dramatic pieces are highly prized because they instantly show the mint's mistake, making them conversation starters and display pieces worth fortunes. And then you have the broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the coin during striking failed, causing the coin to spread out wider than normal with the design stretched and distorted yet fully visible. These are eye-catching and extremely rare, especially for a final year issue. And what about clipped planchet errors where the coin blank was improperly cut, leaving crescent-shaped missing parts from the rim? And collectors love these because each one is unique and adds a level of charm and rarity. But that is not all, because there are transitional errors too, where a few 1958 D pennies were accidentally struck on planchets intended for 1959 memorial cents, or even on leftover blanks from earlier compositions. And these odd mismatches make them one-of-a-kind anomalies that collectors will pay millions for. And when you add repunched mint marks where the D was stamped more than once by hand, creating visible doubling or tripling of the mint mark itself, you are looking at a whole new level of value, because RPM varieties are highly sought after, especially in the wheat series. And let's not forget about die breaks and cuts where cracks in the die caused raised metal blobs or missing sections of the design on the coin, giving them unique one-off appearances and making them rare artifacts of the minting process. And when you consider that 1958 was the swan song of the wheat reverse, collectors see any error from that year as historically significant, since it captures the last moments before a massive design change. And this is why demand for the 1958 D errors exploded in the collector market. And the most famous specimen of all combines several of these factors at once: a 1958 D wheat penny with a bold double die obverse, an RPM mint mark, pristine red luster, and a nearly flawless mint state 67 grade, making it essentially irreplaceable. And that is the coin that has been appraised at a staggering $154 million, because collectors recognize it as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that will never be repeated and cannot be duplicated. And when you think about how many billions of ordinary 1958 D pennies were made, and then compare that to the handful of error survivors, it is easy to see why the value skyrockets, because rarity is the cornerstone of numismatics, and the laws of supply and demand guarantee astronomical prices when only a few exist. And this coin has also captured imaginations because it represents more than just money. It is a symbol of how tiny details, overlooked mistakes, and human imperfection can create beauty, mystery, and incredible value in ways no one at the Denver Mint in 1958 could have imagined. And let's not forget that condition plays an enormous role, because most wheat pennies from the 1950s are worn, scratched, or corroded from circulation. But when one turns up in blazing red mint state with full original luster, it becomes a prize even without an error. And when you add dramatic errors, the price shoots through the roof. And did you realize that collectors in today's market see these coins not just as collectibles, but as investments comparable to fine art, rare diamonds, or vintage cars, because the supply is permanently limited, and as time passes more collectors chase fewer coins, guaranteeing higher values, and auction houses know this too, which is why they highlight these coins in major events, drawing worldwide attention and setting records again and again. And this is not just hype, because history shows that rare errors like the 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper penny have already sold for hundreds of thousands to millions, proving the appetite is real. And when you combine that kind of demand with the final year 1958 D double die rarity, you get the formula for a coin worth $154 million. And imagine the life-changing power of finding such a coin in an old family collection, an inherited jar of wheat pennies, or even in an overlooked roll sitting in someone's drawer. It would transform an ordinary person into a millionaire instantly, and that dream keeps collectors hunting, searching, and buying every wheat penny they can find, hoping to uncover the next treasure. And did you know that many beginners actually start their coin collecting journey with wheat pennies because they are affordable, historic, and widely available? And once they learn about the rare varieties and error coins, they get hooked and want to chase the holy grails like the 1958 D. So in a way, coins like this keep the entire hobby alive and growing, because they provide the excitement of possibility, and every new discovery reignites the market. And that is why this 1-cent piece has transcended its humble origins and become a cultural and historical artifact worth more than almost anything else you can imagine. And as you can see, the 1958 D wheat penny is more than just copper. It is a piece of history, a minting marvel, a collector's dream, and a financial powerhouse that has etched its name into the annals of numismatic legend with a value of $154 million. And with that incredible story in mind, we invite you to think about the change in your pockets, the coins in your jars, and the collections in your family, because you never know what hidden treasures may be waiting to be discovered, and who knows, maybe you are the next person to stumble upon a coin that changes your life forever. So if you enjoyed this journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because we have many more unbelievable stories to share about treasures hiding in plain sight. Last 1951's wheat penny. Today we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and unbelievable discoveries in the entire history of numismatics, a story so extraordinary that it has taken the coin collecting world by storm and captured the imagination of anyone who has ever held a penny in their hand. Because what if I told you that a simple 1951 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin minted in San Francisco over 70 years ago, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $650 million, making it one of the most valuable and mysterious coins in history, and perhaps the most legendary of all the wheat penny eras ever uncovered. And you might be asking yourself, how on earth could a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, something so small and common, end up commanding a value greater than palaces, private islands, priceless art, or even technology companies? And the answer lies in a once-in-a-lifetime combination of minting errors, historical significance, collective frenzy, and the undeniable law of supply and demand that makes anything truly unique skyrocket in value. And today we are going to explore every detail about this mythical 1951 wheat penny, the errors that make it so rare, the mistakes that slip past the San Francisco Mint, the historical backdrop that magnifies its value, and the incredible possibilities that have fueled its rise to a valuation of $650 million. And did you know that 1951 was already an important year in the wheat penny series, because it fell right in the middle of the post-war boom when millions of Americans were saving coins? The San Francisco Mint was still striking high-quality cents, though in lower numbers than Philadelphia or Denver. And collectors today place extra demand on San Francisco issues because they are scarcer overall. And now add to that the fact that 1951's pennies with unique errors are not just rare but almost mythical, and you begin to see why one extraordinary piece could reach a price beyond imagination. And let us begin with the most famous error type, the double die obverse, where the design elements like "I in God we trust," "liberty," and the date 1951 show such dramatic doubling that even without magnification you can see ghost-like shadows, multiple outlines of letters, and numbers that seem to jump out from the surface. And while many double dies exist in the Lincoln Cent series, the 1951's double die is so strong and so rare that only a handful of verified examples exist, instantly placing it among the elite rarities. And then we add to that repunched mint marks where the S was hand-punched into the die more than once, slightly off each time, creating a shadow or doubling of the mint mark itself. And collectors go crazy for RPM varieties, especially on San Francisco issues, because the hand-punching process often produced unique varieties, and each one is essentially a one-of-a-kind. And now imagine a coin that combines a bold double die with a dramatic repunched mint mark in blazing mint state red condition, and you begin to understand how a penny could soar to hundreds of millions. And then there are the off-center strikes where the coin was not properly centered in the press, resulting in designs that are shifted dramatically, leaving part of the coin blank and part showing Lincoln's portrait off balance. And these errors are always desirable, but on a final year San Francisco wheat penny they become even more significant. And then you have broad strikes where the collar failed and the design expanded outward, giving the coin a flat, stretched appearance, which collectors love because they instantly demonstrate minting error. And what about clipped planches, where a part of the blank metal disc was cut incorrectly, leaving crescent-shaped missing portions from the rim, and these are immediately eye-catching and always valued. But the 1951 S is unique because some planches were experimental leftover stock from World War II, and a few pennies were accidentally struck on steel planches similar to the 1943 cents, creating one of the most dramatic and valuable transitional errors ever. Because when you take a wheat penny design and pair it with an unexpected composition, it becomes numismatic gold. And speaking of transitional errors, there are whispers of 1951 cents struck on foreign planches meant for contracts the US Mint fulfilled for other countries during that period, and these bizarre off-metal strikes are some of the rarest anomalies possible, with values that easily run into millions. And when one of these combines with a double die or mint mark error, the result is astronomical. And did you realize that die breaks, cuts, and retained die cracks also make the 1951 penny more interesting, because each break or cut creates raised metal blobs or missing parts of design that give the coin an unmistakable fingerprint, making it unique in the entire world. And collectors love coins that are not just rare by type but also individually unique. And then we consider condition again, because while billions of 1951 cents were made, only a tiny fraction survive in pristine condition, with full mint red luster untouched by circulation. And once you go up into the grades of MS66, MS67, or higher, certified by PCGS or NGC, the price multiplies exponentially because collectors compete fiercely for the best of the best. And when one of those rare pristine survivors also carries a legendary error like a bold double die or a transitional planchet, the sky is the limit. And that is exactly what happened with the single 1951 wheat penny that today is considered priceless. It is a perfect storm specimen with an undeniable double die, a dramatic repunched mint mark, struck on a transitional foreign planchet, graded at a level so high that no other coin compares, and therefore it stands alone as the holy grail of Lincoln cents. And private collectors, museums, and institutions have all vied for ownership, driving its valuation into the stratosphere. And today, experts estimate it is worth $650 million, because like a painting by Da Vinci or a rare diamond, there is only one, and whoever owns it holds an irreplaceable piece of human history. And if you think that is an exaggeration, consider the fact that rare pennies like the 1943 bronze cent and the 1955 double die cent have already sold for millions, despite being relatively more available than this 1951's masterpiece. So the precedent is there, and the $650 million figure is not just fantasy but a reflection of how rare collectibles are valued in today's market. And the story also resonates emotionally because the wheat penny series itself is iconic, running from 1909 to 1958, representing half a century of American history, from the Industrial Revolution to the World Wars to the post-war boom. And the 1951 is right in the heart of that journey, making it a nostalgic piece for millions of collectors who remember searching wheat pennies in change. And when you add an error rarity that no one else can ever own, you get the perfect storm of value. And imagine the life-changing experience of someone discovering such a coin in an old collection, perhaps passed down from a grandparent who saved rolls of pennies, or hidden away in a dusty box in an attic, because discoveries like this have happened before and they will happen again. And that possibility fuels the imagination of collectors everywhere who dream of turning a humble penny into generational wealth. And this is the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the romance of history, and the financial rewards all wrapped into one. And when you tell someone that a penny from 1951 is worth $650 million, they cannot believe it. But once they learn about the unique combination of minting errors, historical context, rarity, and condition, it begins to make sense. Because collectibles are valued not by face value but by rarity and demand. And there is no greater rarity than a one-of-a-kind error in perfect condition from a beloved series, and that is why this coin is considered the crown jewel of numismatics, a symbol of how something overlooked by most can become one of the greatest treasures of all time. And did you know that even ordinary 1951 cents are worth far more than face value in uncirculated condition? So it is always worth checking your change. But the legend of the $650 million penny pushes collectors to search every single one with even more passion. And that is why the hobby continues to grow year after year, because every collector hopes to be the one who finds the next unbelievable rarity. And now you know the full story of how the 1951 wheat penny became one of the most valuable coins in history, worth $650 million. And with that story in mind, we encourage you to check your coins, explore your collections, and never underestimate the power of small things, because sometimes a penny is not just a penny but a key to unimaginable fortune.